a ritual for you. You woke up and thought that it was a good day to get up on the right side of bed. You sat down on your bed and gave your scalp a little massage. The new haircut you got, short, very short, was the best idea that could cross your mind. A boy haircut saved you some minutes that you could spend sleeping. You were going to get your bra in place, but you realized you were not wearing one. You had decided to sleep without a bra for the rest of your life. You had stopped nursing already and didn't have to worry about getting milk on the blankets. The best thing was that you did not have to wear those nursing pads anymore in order to avoid milk accidents. Actually, you thought those pads should be called maxi pads for boobs. You thought of how good it was not to wear the nursing pads. After wearing them 1 year, day and night, 7 days of the week, you felt free. It was as if a milk eternal period had stopped. Then your eyes went down and you stared at your belly. You sighed. You sighed again. You realized that the image of you wearing a bikini with a flat belly was a dream. You sighed again. The paunch that the second pregnancy had left on you was still there, as it was the day before and the day before. However, you thought that the weighing scale was on your side. You had lost 5 pounds after you weaned your last child. It was not bad. There was hope. You yawned. You looked at the clock. It was 6:30 a.m. Time to get up and get ready. You didn't have energy to get up, though, and suddenly stared at your feet. One of your feet gave the other a massage, and you thought you needed a pedicure. The last time you had one was so long ago. Maybe you will get one during your vacations. But let's emphasize this. You were happy because the peppermint foot lotion you bought on the internet made you feel as if you were walking on frozen clouds. So good. You smiled. Not everything was bad. You turned your head to your side and saw him. He was sleeping. You listened carefully and you didn't hear any crying. Everything was quiet. The area was yours. You could easily get up and get into the bathtub to enjoy a warm shower. Ah, happiness, you thought. You had time to shave your legs with hair removal cream. With a smile on your face, you finally got up, and without bumping into anything, you entered the bathroom and looked at yourself in the mirror. You approached your own reflection, put your fingers below your eyes, and stretched your skin. You looked at your nose and squeezed a couple of blackheads here and there. Your nose turned red. You observed the dark circles under your eyes. They were there, as always. You waved at them as if they could wave back to you. Those circles, you always said if someone asked you, have been with you since you were born. They were not a sign of tiredness. You have them since you were a child. Oh, you noticed that you need to remove the fuzz about your lips. This was the perfect time to do it. You had time. You immediately grabbed the hair removal cream and applied a small amount. It was necessary to wait 2 minutes. Wait, I got lost. Okay, sorry. It was necessary to wait 2 minutes and then remove it to stay hairless. Meanwhile, you continue staring at your face in the mirror, but this time you look at your gray hairs. You have some new ones. Every day you got more and more. You were not supposed to have gray hairs at your age, 30-something, but you always remember that your aunts had gray hair since they were young. Heritage. You smiled. Having gray hairs made you feel good. It didn't bother you at all. Those gray hairs were something that connected you with your father's side of the family. They were like a banner you wore over your head, which said, "Hello, I belong to this family." Belonging. While living in another country and being so far away from everyone, those gray hairs had become something wonderful, a symbol of your roots that you could not explain. The skin above your lips started to burn, and you realized that 2 minutes had passed already. Quickly, you turned on water and splashed your face to remove the cream. You repeated this several times to get rid of the cream and fuzz. Great. Now that part of your face was red too. Oh well, as the Americans say. You thought and started to undress. You look at your breasts in the mirror, fallen. You remember how they were before you had children. Actually, you remember how they were before you breastfed. They were small and were always firm. Now you believe they were, and you always thought that you had fallen breasts. Ha! They just had a pear shape. But they were not fallen. How naive you were. Now they were really fallen, and you felt like empty. After 3 years feeling your boobs were going to explode during pregnancies and long periods of breastfeeding, now they felt empty. It was weird. The good thing was they were bigger than before. That you liked. Thinking about how healthy your children were after feeding them breast milk made you happy. Truly, this was a genuine feeling. The belly was another thing. It made you feel bad. You were not bothered about having wider hips because you had always been wide, but the belly, that affected you. You looked down and contemplated that roll there in the middle where the belly button is. That made you mad. If you bent it for any reason, it would hang. You imagined that after being pregnant with such huge bumps, this should be normal. You had seen worse cases, but you had seen also better cases. It had to do with the shape of the body, definitely, but it drove you nuts. That was what really drove you nuts. Everything else, the stretch marks, bigger hips, fallen breasts, you could live with those. But the blocking pouch, no. You sighed. You thought, as you do every morning, that you had to do some abs, and like always you ask yourself, when? So then the story goes on, she finally gets into the shower. She gets the shower, but she thinks and thinks about herself. And then she has a chance to shave her legs. You always had the chance to use hair removal cream, but not this time. You spent so much time having a shower. So you had to use a shaving machine, because anytime the children will wake up and you wouldn't have time, you would have to run. During the vacations, you could use hair removal cream again. During the vacations, you could do everything. You could do some crotch stitch. You could go cut your hair. You could put pictures on an album, because you still enjoy putting pictures on an album, doing scrapbooking. You could fix your clothes. You could sew, everything. Everything that you can do during the vacations. You smile happy counting the days for your vacations. You finally shaved your legs and you saw all the hair going away with the water. And then you said, you realized you were mad. Shaving bothered you. Who the hell said that hair on legs were not feminine? Who said that? You yell in the bathroom, but nobody heard you. You said that it had to be a man, of course. And then you were there, like every woman, submerged in this chaos of shaving your legs. Ah, life is not just. You thought of it again. Then cellulitis. You had a little bit on your hips, and it had been get worse after the pregnancies. And it really didn't bother you at all. The belly was the thing that bothered you. But you were thinking, if men in general, you've read that before, had the fat below the muscles, and women had the fat over the muscles, why the hell women had to wear bikinis and men are allowed to wear swimming suits that go to their knees? Why in the world? Who said that? It had to be a man. Why, if women are supposed to get cellulitis, why are women supposed to feel ashamed of having it? There was a time to say something. You thought with your hand up while you felt the water going through your body. And she kept thinking about this and so on. Then she got out of the shower and she looked at the mirror. And you smile again. You were fresh, you were hairless, and you had a little treasure on a corner of the bathroom. You got everything you need. You got your lotions, your jewelry, your hair accessories, everything that the children would not touch. It was the corner of beauty, you call it, because you were beautiful. You still were beautiful. You were not 25 and you had given birth twice, but you were beautiful. She talked about clothing and stuff, and at the end, she finally got out of the bathroom, finally. So you got out of the bathroom quietly. You got into the closet looking for something to wear to stay at home. You put some sweatpants and a t-shirt, an old t-shirt, super comfy. It was a Saturday. You didn't have to work today. You pick up some socks that you found somewhere and that were good to you. Meanwhile, you thought about coffee. A good coffee just made, that smell, that would be great. You got out of the closet, you were ready, you were fresh, you were comfortable. You heard something and you pay attention. Now you heard that perfectly. Mama, mama. The day had started and you were ready. Thank you.
This poem is entitled Live from Mama's Belly. And I wrote it in terms of if my sister and I were in there. How can I see inside the womb? I don't know if I have enough room to move, to be, to create. All I know, it is dark in here. No light, no sight, no switch to flicker with. Just darkness and me. Looking at one another, wanting light to rescue one from the other, live from Mama's belly. And you know the proper way to applaud is, thank you. One of the things about this book that I actually made a conscious effort to do is to share a lot of haikus, which I really love to write. I wrote a poem about my mother and my father. They were both haikus, and then someone approached me and said, your mother's poem only has like 3 lines. And my mother was like, why is my poem so short? So I said, Mother, it's a haiku, and I went on to explain to her the haiku. I said, so actually it's very difficult to write, So you should feel, great that it was difficult. So look at it from that perspective. And so she felt a little better. This poem is entitled Mama. Roses always bloom, even when my heart is gloom. She loves me with all. Mama. Thank you. And I wrote a poem about my father. The one thing I remember, my dad, he lives with my sister and I. But one of the things I remember about him growing up was he had these huge hands. And I have a very good memory of them, both seeing them coming at me. But he has very huge hands, and so I wrote about my dad. It's called Daddy. Hands of this man big. I knew not one hiding place, but his protection. That's another haiku, Daddy. And please feel free. Like I said, in this book, there are several themes that I tried to capture. One of them, I have my godmother is whom I feel like is very weird, because whenever I tell this story, people always say, well, how is she your godmother? But our godmother, my twin and I, our godmother was out of our lives for like 35 years. She was out of our life. So in the last 3 to 4 years, we've reconnected, and I spent a tremendous amount of time in Atlanta visiting her. And so I wrote a poem about that, getting to know her, going back into a relationship with her. But this poem is not a haiku. It is, I didn't do a haiku for her, but it's called Godmother. And these, I'm trying to read theme-based, family-based poetry, because, you know, sometimes too, you keep in mind when you're talking about family, there are friends who are closer to us than family members, you know. So I also look at those relationships that are not blood related, can be family also. So this poem is entitled Godmother. When we talk, it feels as if time stands still. I forget the earth is revolving around the sun. And since I don't feel it anyway, it makes sense to just enjoy the ride. I glean from you as a garden. On any given day, I just might pull up a chair, sip a glass of lemonade, facing the sun, watching you like spring's return. The return is life for me, another reason for me to blossom. I noticed something wonderful. You never left. I just came to meet you, and the trip has been worth the wait. Godmother. Thank you. I also wanted to do a love poem. Someone asked me, are you gonna do a love poem, Flooded? Yes, I guess. So this poem, if you use this poem with someone that you love, they may become family. They may want to marry you after this. If you use this poem. It is called Flooded. My head is flooded with thoughts of you. No life jacket, no preserver. You won't jump in and save me, and you see me going under? Would you save me if you knew I loved you? Give me your hand, perform mouth-to-mouth resuscitation so I can breathe again, and all those thoughts of you gush out of me. I am revived. Flooded. Thank you. The next poem I would like to share with you is called Friendship. Because as I said earlier, we have friends that are like sisters to us, brothers, real blood brothers, blood sisters. And so this poem is entitled Friendship. Friendship, strong, bonded, enduring, trusting, healing, stretching beyond normal, loving above fault, caring, sharpening, comforting, beautiful, unique, sibling, friendship. And there's a poem I have, a haiku called God's Love. Your love forever finds me in deep, dark places, saves me from myself. God's love. Let's see. I left off a poem that I wanted to share with you. A poem I wrote to Maya Angelou. Now, Maya Angelou is like family to me. Now, I never met her before, but, I do consider her like the grandmother I wish if I could have a, grandmother, she would be it, Maya Angelou. She's a great inspiration to me. And I thought I had marked it in my book, but I don't see it. Maybe I'll find it, and I'll try to come back to it. I would like to read that poem. There's a poem I have called Sister to Sister. This poem is actually years old also. So it was written, it is a African American centered poem, and it's called Sister to Sister. And in this poem, I'm talking to African American sisters, and I invoke names of most of the people in this poem are famous, although I will call them by their first name. So if you don't, you may not know who I'm referring to. It's called Sister to Sister. I was born to tell you, my sister, that my love for you flows like the waters of the Nile. And what life and spirit that comes from me is for you and the gifts you have given to the world. You are as the full moon, giving light in deep darkness. When life is without form and void, you come like the Spirit of God, saying, "Let there be light." You are Ruth, Naomi, and Mary. You are my sister. You are the hope that God's blessings have given. Your sweet and gentle nature is the scaffold that shall become the peace of the earth. You are my Africa in America, beautiful and strong. You are Nefertiti, Cleopatra, and the Queen of Sheba. You are my sister. You are the first history book, speaking to the greatness of the struggle of the slave and the free. A queen before the captivity. Despite the rugged path and dark night, you are like the North Star, guiding us into what we can become. You are Harriet, Sojourner, and Fannie Lou. You are my sister. You are the architect of the greatest survival, the painter whose brush creates a joy unspeakable into the hearts of our people. Every stroke is a symbol of justice. Every word is a vessel of freedom. You are Maya, Sonia, and Nikki. You are my sister. You breathe your spirit into me, and I rejoice from the depths of my soul. Africa is embedded in your very nature, and she comes into existence through your nurture and grace. You are a symbol of my heritage, a star that guides. You are Angela, Bernice, and Betty. You are my sister. You are the mother of the earth, the mother of Jesus, or of Moses and Muhammad. An African queen you are. I know you. I know myself. You are a woman, beautiful, black. I am. Sister to sister. I really wish I could find it. My Angelo poem. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shane. Page 30. Because this is one of my favorite poems. Maya Angelou, I have a deep affection for Maya Angelou. And of course, the day she died, people were texting me and calling me as if I knew her. They wanted to know, are you okay? And so I wrote a poem because I was at work actually, and I was just, I love the news, so I keep alerts, and when breaking news happens, I usually know about it. And I was at my desk at work, and At the time, actually, I was working for Liberty House of Albany, which is we advocates for domestic violence victims. So I just got to work, and I was there, and I was sitting there, and I got an alert on my phone from CNN saying breaking news, Maya Angelou has passed. And immediately I just started to cry because I just felt the loss like immediately. And so I was sitting there just thinking about all the things I had learned from her and from afar, and all of the poetry and just all of the wisdom. I had the opportunity to actually go and hear her like a year before she passed at Florida State. And so a friend of mine who is the head of security there, the police at Florida State, he got my sister and I front row seats. So we were there around the front row to be able to hear her. And so that was the second time actually I had the opportunity to hear her. So I wrote a poem called The Day You Left because I was just so overwhelmed, and I called one of my former high school teachers that I could talk to, and I just was crying like a baby, and she was like, oh, it's going, she really was encouraging me, and she understood how I felt because she knew how much I loved Dr. Angelou. So this poem was entitled The Day You Left for Maya Angelou. I cried. I didn't know what else to do. I prayed. I had nowhere else to go. I texted those I love. I had no one else to understand me. I rejoiced. You became an even bigger part of me. I wrote a poem. This is what I was born to do. The Day You Left. One of the things that I want to predate, to let you know how old I am, but I'm up there. I know I don't look it, but I'm not like real young. My sister's shaking her head saying, please do not say, because normally I do tell people how old we are, and she, so I won't insult you today. One of the things I remember growing up, I can't even tell you when I was born. I'll just say in the 70s. You can determine when I was early or late 70s or mid 70s. But growing up in the 70s, one of the things that I remember, and I've noticed when we're talking about family, I've noticed that in the African American culture, we use the terms, especially when we were growing up, when I was growing up, everybody was your brother, your sister. Hey brother, hey sister. Some of you probably remember that. But you don't hear that anymore unless you go to church, and you might hear it. But that was just a cultural thing for us. I can remember my parents' friends, whenever they saw their friends, they would always greet each other with the brother, this is my brother, or hey brother, or hey sister. Another one of the words they would use is, what's up, blood? As a connection to some type of family. It was just that sense of family. You don't hear that anymore. So, but one of my poems I wrote was called Brothers and Sisters. Brothers, be better being, not banging. Battles are won with the ballot, not the bullet. Listen, look, let love's light lift you. Sister, sing songs, smooth sounds symbolic of names that are yours. Listen, look, let love's light lift you. Together, time touches tempers and cools consciousness. Wrap each other in one another and let love's light lift us. That's Brothers and Sisters. And I think that was all that I marked. I believe so. Do I have time for one more? No? Yes? Okay. I had one that I wanted to do. It'll probably take me the entire time to find it. But I don't have it marked. Well, here's one for and someone asked me yesterday, I think I mentioned Shirley Sherrod, and I mentioned her as Shirley, and someone said, you know her like, know her like that? I said, yeah, that's kind of like, she's known me since I was in my mama's belly. But I wrote a poem in this book for Charles Sherrod, which is one of my, but they both are very good friends of my parents. And I've always admired Charles Sherrod and Shirley, but Charles because of his great work in the civil rights movement. So this poem is called Warriors, and it's for Charles Sherrod. Standing on the shoulders of men, we dare not sit unless to bend, and listen as the elders speak, to ensure future days not bleak. Standing on the shoulders of women, not to repeat history again, but their lessons we humbly keep, to ensure the future days not bleak. Elders, we called out to you first, since you have seen the days of thirst. It is your knowledge that we seek, to ensure future days not bleak. Warriors, cast your spears into our hands. Where you fight, your legacy stands. Our fight for justice, strong, not weak, to ensure future days not bleak. Warriors, for Charles Sherrod. Thank you.
So this is called the Great American Lawn Mowing. When I was growing up, during formative years that seemed very long and agonizing, my father tried to teach my brother and me, quote, the value of $1. A major memorable way in which he practiced this slow step towards illustrating the American dream, as if we were puppets of this demonstration, was to have us mow the lawn. I'm here not concerned with my brother's experience because somehow, due to maternal intervention, it was quickly determined he had allergies and was thus exempt from walking back and forth behind a lawnmower in 100+ degree Texas heat, which meant that as a teenager, fit from repeated bouts of this hard labor, I was soon able to finish mowing the lawn in 2.5 hours. At the time, I did not understand the value of earning $1, on which my father appeared so fixated, nor why I had to suffer at the work ethic hands of a father who apparently thought I would never know what it was like to grow up as a child in post-World War II Germany. Somehow he connected my twice-a-week lawn mowing sessions with his tough past, while ceding to my Swedish mother, meaning my brother got out of it. In Dallas, a well-fertilized and sprinkled lawn required uber-frequent mowings, which would have suited my father just fine. He did not want his eldest son to turn out to be one of those kids going to a fancy pants school where my only sweat might come from yielding a lacrosse stick and pain in my ankle emanate from twisting it on a tennis court. Instead, dazed from the heat and extended sessions of labor, I had to walk into metal sprinkler heads, they were metal back then, and stumble. And if I was not paying attention and nicked them, I was made well aware, even back then, that one head cost $25, and other injurious parts were included in this transaction. The value of $1 must be multiplied many times to reach the full amount of $25. As I walked behind the self-propelled mower, which my father proudly proclaimed was self-propelled to anyone who would listen, as if this feature was an incredible luxury and feat of technology, I did not understand why the neighbors truly practiced trickle-down economics and had adults come to take care of the lawns so their children could lounge inside air conditioning or on the hot deck of a pool, while fathers worked in their home studies with framed photographs of Ronald Reagan winking at them. And my trickle down was all across my bare back, itching from the inevitable interaction with the grass that had to be emptied into black trash bags that would burst from the heat as they were packed perfectly close to the lawn without touching it and leaving the driveway clear for a fancy automobile. The American dream was rolling around. Yes, whether or not teenagers are scripted to do the labor of lawn mowing, they will bite the hand that feeds them. The question now, after many years of enjoying mowing my own lawn, before beginning to practice trickle-down economics and having it treated like a mistress, styled, blown, and fertilized to consummate perfection with a jewel-worthy huge carbon footprint to top the trophy possession, is if my laborious encounters with the lawn and lessons of the value of $1 made me a better American and contributor to society. Did being called out from my room when I was reading benefit anyone other than my father and his motions or notions of what it takes to raise a son who would make him as proud as the American flag and Republican Party? I think of Walt Whitman now and his obsession with grass and his famous lines from what else? Leaves of Grass, a state of mind I am certain my father did not intend. And it is too easy to pluck, quote, resist much, obey little, or my favorites, if you want me again, look for me under your boot soles, as a reminder that A, I fought mowing for money all the way, and B, my father is now dead and cannot see how I turned out as an adult walking through life. That's often on carpet or flooring. Should we put Fancy Pants Trevor out there in the heat with a lawnmower and let him have his long walks to mull things over this growing season of 2016? Will it make a difference? If so, what kind of difference? It doesn't matter, just put him out there. Unless, of course, he has asthma and you're not willing to pay for the pharmaceutical treatments, more expensive than the trickle-down lawn care, just to prove what point. All right, and I'm sure my father would enjoy it if he were here to hear it. Here's another thing. Many of you probably have been on those wonderful family vacations. And we all know that we're all so functional and we all just have a great time and we come back and just totally energized and wish we could spend weeks and weeks together in a car. And this essay is called Broadening Horizons. With the exception of a few grouchy people, the ones we half playfully say should crawl back under the rock where they came from, or into their poorly insulated summer cabin, most will answer yes, from experience or didactic echo. Travel does broaden the mind. I can hear also my Swedish parents say this, and while I once only half understood what they meant, taken out of my Lego world, I can report that they made sure my brother and I got to experience firsthand a foreign culture, America. Back when we traveled to America, it was considered very extravagant and also somewhat nutty to cross the vast ocean from Sweden by airplane and spend several weeks in a land most people only knew as larger than life, and not necessarily in a positive way, from what they had heard or imagined from popular media. And back then, popular media meant a newspaper made of paper, a magazine, and some coverage from one television station broadcasting a few hours a day. And as we lose our place, we find again that it was supplemented by a transistor with radio broadcasts. Believe it or not, I'm talking about 1970, months after Americans had landed on the moon. Our parents succeeded in broadening our minds when the family spent 2 summers exploring America. And explore we did, spending endless hours in a rental car going from coast to coast, but especially spending time in the, quote, West, compliments of my father's great interest in the Old West and cowboy movies. Yes, High Chaparral, The Virginian, and the occasional John Wayne movie were ours for the taking in Sweden, and my father was taken indeed. I'm not sure my mind was broadened the way my parents had intended. However, I recall that we reached the Grand Canyon, something which was supposed to be famous. Just before we were to get out and marvel at the wonder, the front of my father's pants somehow split. He was very embarrassed by this fact, and it did not make it any easier that my brother and I, truth be known, my mother, thought this was a hilarious occasion. So all I remember from this wonder of the world is my father grabbing the cowboy hat he had bought and holding it in front of his pants, making his way to the railing of the Grand Canyon in a snaking way, or as if he had injured himself walking. As a side note, this was before the term sciatica had become all the rage, and every adult was afflicted by its flare-ups, and some of you know. Tombstone, Arizona. It was supposed to be very interesting. We were in a sandy graveyard, and it was capital letters hot in the middle of the summer for a Swedish boy. I recall only ducking into the gift shop where my mind was broadened to celebrate air conditioning, my favorite discovery on my entire trip through America. Add to that Sprite, which came ice cold and went down my throat in a way no amount of expert advertising could have conditioned me to swallow. Another image from that gift store and visit to Tombstone, Arizona. My mother, equally exhausted from the heat, looking as if she was hanging onto the postcard racks like a life preserver, while my father continued his visions of gunfighters out in the graveyard. What else did I discover? Wrigley's Juicy Fruit. I like the yellow wrappered gum best. I suppose our parents were giving us gum so we could entertain ourselves during the thousands of miles we traveled by car both summers. That's another thing I remember. My father bragging to others about the mileage he put on the rental car. I don't remember the exact number. It did not register, like so much else that was supposed to have during the mind-broadening travel trip to America. I discovered during our journey my love for motel swimming pools. After sitting in the car all day accumulating miles, what a gift it was to be set free in the pool and dive and swim and dive and swim. I also loved the kids eat free buffets, though I recall I was such a good eater that my very honest and straight-laced father was embarrassed and thought it was not right for me to eat free, so he paid for a full adults buffet. Another learning experience from the summer, too, in America. We were in a place called Bryce Canyon, and we were going to get to ride real live animals. They were mules. I remember finding it interesting that these animals were a combination of horse and donkey. I found the way their ears looked different from those of a horse to be a discovery. I also heard the head wrangler of mules and tourists tell those who were afraid and said they had never ridden before, "Well, then we'll give you all a horse that's never been ridden before." My father and others thought that was very funny. Years later, I thought how corny this joke was and how often the poor wrangler must have said it to tourists. These are only a few, but the major memories of several weeks' worth of traveling in the U.S. when I was a boy from Sweden, swept across the ocean in an airplane by well-meaning parents. Did travel broaden my mind? It did, as I discovered some things about human behavior, all of it ancillary to what people might say when they utter the words, "travel broadens the mind," or "travel is good for the person." I'm not sure I learned what my parents intended me for to learn, or did I? And I'm going to read one more since I realize time is running out quickly. This is about my extended family, my students, and this is called Summer School in the Garden. This morning I caught the beginning of the end of the white petals raining on the lawn, the crepe myrtle trees that have brought shade and such beauty, peace as I have stolen moments outside on the back porch. I viewed them like an outsider, as if I did not belong there. As I raised my iPhone to photograph them, as if I could capture exact beauty. This is how I have taken breaks teaching American literature online this A-term, getting up to stretch and venturing into our backyard, a garden more beautiful than I'm deserving, as a mere mortal navigating whether Emily killed Homer Barron in A Rose for Emily, or if Theodore Roethke identified with cuttings or pulling weeds. Those are, of course, examples that have to do with nature, including human nature. But most of the works we've read have been dark, devoid of nature's beauty, to soften the blows of characters not achieving the American dream in Sherwood Anderson's Tales, in which people practically bury themselves alive, or in Toni Morrison's Recitative, where they get swept up in disliking, quote, the other side. I have discovered this summer what a hibiscus looks like. I have seen the developmental phases of agapanthus, and as I have come to know them all, with apologies to paraphrasing from the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock just now, I have taken photographs with ease using my iPhone. Oh, the butterflies I can show you from my leaning into the Buddleia, also known as butterfly bush. I do not know the name of the winged crusader, but if you look at the beautiful blue parts of his black wings, I am sure you can identify him. Bumblebees, or bees rather, have been my companions when blary-eyed from the computer screen on which I have just read that Harry, in Hemingway's Snows of Kilimanjaro, is not nice to his wife, and that the hyena in the story is symbolic of death. The green hummingbird I have seen has been a welcome antidote to an electronic stack of students dutifully chronicling abysmal behavior of characters inhabiting a thick anthology. Watering has been one of my favorite breaks, moving a sprinkler attached to the garden hose, an excuse to explore other corners of our backyard I do not see during the regular academic year. Asked by my wife to please water the hydrangea, I managed to identify that they were the beautiful light blue blooms that to me look very much like the flowers of crepe myrtles off the fence near our neighbors to the right side of the house. No, I did not have any thoughts about good fences make good neighbors when I turned on the water. That has been part of the beauty of teaching English online this summer with the garden just outside. It clears and cleans the mind and head quickly, so that when I go inside, I am new to the students' work. What a difference when walking down the gray carpets against institutional cream-colored walls to explore the alphabetic choices of the snack machine and see the wish pushed for is a match. Here in my wife's garden proper, I see the cherry tomatoes, peppers, smell mint, even recognized by sight that the small orange flowers planted next to this garden are a natural way to keep pests from attacking what grows on the vine. I return inside, try to remember to sit up straight, place my fingers on the keyboard, neck straight, and continue to type the thoughts of summer school. Thank you.